Now you see, when you think about all the anti-Islam content creators we've refuted right here on this channel, you realize there's been next to no effort for them to sincerely actually substantiate why the Bible's a reliable source of information, except by appealing to the Quran.
Who are the gospel writers?
Who are the writers of the Quran?
Now you might wonder why. Why would somebody who has such strong faith in the Bible refuse to actually let the Bible stand on its own 2 feet? Observe.
Matthew wrote the gospel according to Jesus of Matthew.
So he wrote it himself? So
Yeah.
he can talk also. Was Matthew at the time of Jesus living?
Yeah, he's one of the disciples.
One of the... how do you know?
Because it says it right here in the gospel.
So you believe the Gospel of Matthew was authored by a disciple of Jesus named Matthew because the text of the Gospel of Matthew claims there was a disciple named Matthew.
Do you see the amount of skepticism, hyper-skepticism that you have with the gospel and the messengers of the gospel?
You Muslims are hyper-skeptical because you guys don't accept circular reasoning. Ha! Now you see, when you think about all the anti-Islam content creators...
Alright, so I think I have had several comments from some Christians that say something in the same line of what the person, the God Logic said. They assume that I'm putting hyper-skeptical and such a high demand onto the Bible, and they ask, do you put the same demand on the Quran and Hadith? Which is interesting, because if I'm having the assumption that they are being sincere in their question, meaning that why are you put such a burden on the Bible to prove itself, etc., etc., my only logical explanation is that they assume that we do not apply the same thing to the Quran and Hadith. While for Muslim, what? Because when we see Sahih Hadith, to evaluate it, to come to the conclusion that it is Sahih, that is basically the same requirement that we ask on the Bible, which you think or you deem as so high, as a burden. And I'm not sure whether Christians realized it, that they assume, I'm not sure what they assume about the Quran and the Hadith, but the level of scrutiny that we have in the Hadith, let alone the Quran, just let's say in the Hadith, which is why there are Hadith that is considered, this is mawdu', this is da'if, right? Because we have that level of scrutiny. That level of scrutiny, when you apply to the Bible, the whole thing falters. And I think that's why it seems that to them it is such a high burden. Because to be fair, because most Christians see the Bible as historical document, and from that perspective, I would say, I would give them that it is acceptable for any historical document to be accepted as a source with that level of sufficient scrutiny, even though it's much lower relative to the Hadith level of scrutiny, because it is not claiming to be like the Hadith, where when someone claims this is Hadith, they are claiming this is really from the Prophet of God, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? They claim this really is the saying of Prophet Muhammad, and naturally we say, if you want to claim that, we have such a high scrutiny, because once we accept something to be said by the Prophet of God, we have to accept it as the saying of Prophet of God that represent what God teaches us. Hence, you cannot just simply, okay, some document we found say that Prophet Muhammad says this, so it seems like a good document, etc., right? That's not the meaning. There's higher level of scrutiny. Hence, we have that if you apply the same standard to the Bible, of course, the Bible cannot stand. So, but to be fair to the Christian, they do not make the same claim to the Bible as Muslim claim to the Hadith, let alone the Quran, of course. So that's why the level of scrutiny. But that's where I find, okay, I can give them that. They are simply claiming this is historical document, just like any other historical document. But I'm not sure whether they understand that what we demand is because, number one, the way you apply, because if you say, because I have said to Christian that, okay, if you want to say that this is historical document, just like any other historical document that has no bearing on, you know, me putting 100% of my trust on this document for my salvation, because historical document can be from whatever figure back then, and we just want to have an idea of what is the most probably thing that have happened back then. It doesn't have a direct implication on what I believe in terms of God taught us, what prophet says, etc. Right? It's just, this is the story of the past. That's the best idea that we can get from what is available. That's historical document, right? So, but the way you accept the Bible, what it's saying to be, you know, the base of your belief, you shouldn't accept that kind of belief, or you know, level of, I'm not sure what's the word, but you shouldn't put your salvation on that kind of document, right? So that's why to us it is justified to request the level of scrutiny to at least reach the level of hadith. Alright, so hopefully you can see that perspective. Anyway, so I think that's the why we are standing on the and okay, to be fair as well, I think one of my those who always comment on my videos, who is a Christian Catholic, says that no, you got it wrong, Muslim got it wrong, because you assume that our belief is based on the Bible, while it is not. It is more based on the forefather, the church father, the early church father, etc. Right? And the Bible is more of supporting document. But of course, he also did note that that is because he spoke from the perspective of a Catholic, which he believed that did represent Christianity, right? True Christianity. And he did acknowledge that the Protestant in the US, of course, believe differently about the Bible. Hence, that's why in terms of the dialogue that we see, especially in the US, in the UK, is most likely skewed towards the Protestant Christianity type, where they put their faith on the Bible. Hence, that's why it's easier for Muslim to just to point where in the Bible that indicate that it is not something that you should put your belief in, right? But for the Catholic, I think it's different, because they say that it's not, their belief is not fully because of the Bible, but it is because of something earlier, which is the church fathers teaching, etc. And the Bible is just to understand the context, etc., etc. Right? Anyway, so feel free to comment if you are Christian, and be it Protestant, Catholic, non-denomination, whatever it is. If what I said is wrong or misunderstanding some fundamental things, feel free to share. Thank you for watching. See you next time.